Thank you very much. Hello everyone, this is Rick with XYZ Modeling and Graphics. Today we got a pretty big show. We're going to be going over issues 61 through 64. I also begin the green corset painting process. And I'm also going to try something new where I share the work you have submitted to me to all the viewers out there. So stick around for all that. So let's go ahead and jump straight to the build here. We are going to be looking at issue 61 and finishing off the wing, or the majority of it. So while we're going over this wing, I think now would be a good time to go over the comments. The wing assembly here is consistent with the last three that we've done, so I'm going to squeeze in our comments now while I can. So our first comment is from Beck-Zach Lit. He writes, I don't have my first X-Wing issues yet. What do I do? Well, the only thing I can suggest is to either call the manufacturer or send them an email, send customer service an email, and try to find out what's going on. I know you're from Australia. That might have something to do with it, the distance from the manufacturer, but that's just speculation. But aside from giving them a call or attempting to email them, I really don't know what else you could do at this point. But keeping my fingers crossed for you. All right, our next comment is from Michael Mitchell. Hello, Michael. Michael writes, I'm surprised DeAugustini isn't doing a TIE Fighter build to go along with the X-Wing. Yeah, that would be great. I think a TIE Fighter would be great. I can think of a bunch of ships I'd like to see DeAugustini make. TIE Fighter is definitely one of them. So maybe they're listening and maybe they'll come up with something. Thanks, Mike. All right, next comment is from P40F20, P40F20, and he writes, actually the very last part of the fourth wing is in issue 62. Yeah, I know I misspoke in my last video. I said that the issue 61 would have finished it off, but yes, you are right. There is one piece in this issue 62 that finishes off the wing, so thanks for correcting me. I'm sure there'll be other moments where you're going to need to correct me, but yeah, so we'll see that. But at least in this month, we are seeing the finish of the wings, thankfully. All right, final comment is from Greg Barr. Greg writes, enjoying your build so far. I like the choice of a Corsair X-Wing. Can't wait to see the paint job. I am on month 4 and I am still debating to repaint it as Red 5 or if I can get a good reference blue leader from Rogue One. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate that. Yeah, so as far as the Corsair X-Wing, yep, I'm starting that in this video. You'll see that at the end of this video. I'm beginning that process anyway. You say you're on month 4. Yep, you're a ways back there, but you know, the Red 5 is obviously a respectable paint scheme, but I think it's great that we or those of us who want to divert from what the original intention of this model is great. Those blue leaders or the blue X-Wings from Rogue One are fantastic. I think that would be a really good choice as well. So yeah, let me know what you decide to do and feel free to send me your project photos and I'll be happy to post those. So thanks a lot, Greg. I appreciate it. You know, speaking of other DeAugustini models, Martin Futter sent me a picture of one that apparently has been released in France. It's an AT-AT walker that is 22.2 inches long, about 19 inches tall, and 6 1/4 inches wide, which makes me wonder if this was the actual scale they used in The Empire Strikes Back. In which case, you know, you would want to paint this thing, or I would want to paint this thing as close to the original prop as possible. So France is apparently getting something the rest of us aren't. So if anybody knows more about that, please let me know. But thanks for sharing that with me, Martin. So checking in with the build here, we are finishing our connection of the laser cannon to the wing. And we're just using our number 2 screws for that. And then once we have that securely in place, we'll make our electrical connection here. So I do have, my wire came unanchored from the framing that I had earlier, but if that happens, it's no big deal. You just push that wiring right back into place. Just be careful when you push that into the grooves there that you don't dig into the insulation of that wiring. So once that connection has been made, it's a good idea to test your light one more time. Make sure that your laser cannon is working properly. And I am using CA glue to apply this wing and the skin of the wing, and the reason I am is because this piece does not want to sit flush. A little bit wants to come up from the bottom corner. So in order to solve that problem, I use CA glue and use my little clamps here to keep that tight and make sure that that skin stays flush. Otherwise, it just looks unrealistic. You know, it's not as presentable as it should be. So, for those of you who do not like the idea of using CA glue, these are the reasons why I do. But be careful. If you plan on preserving this paint job, you want to make sure you do not get that glue on the outside of the wing, otherwise you will see a discoloration. Alright everybody, the moment we've all been waiting for. The absolute last part to the 4th and final wing. So drum roll please. I just can't tell you how good this feels right here to be applying the last part to this wing. And I will not be using CA glue. I know this isn't very ceremonious, but I'm going to be just pressing this into place and seeing how well she holds. So there we go. There you have it. The absolute last piece to this wing. So I am happy for it. Now you want to make sure that's pressed in there pretty good, and when you do, it's really hard to know exactly how much pressure to apply, because God forbid you press too hard and crack this part or another part behind it. It's a little nerve-wracking. So the next part of this issue 62 is adding the details to the cockpit. And I am going to just show photographs from the book because it was just impossible for me to get tight enough with my cameras anyway to show the parts and where they connect. So I figure I will just show you the photographs from the magazine, and that will more or less explain what needs to happen here. So many little tiny pieces that come together to add to the paneling that go inside the cockpit. And you know, it's tedious. And this particular part right here, part F from the sprue, was actually missing. If you look here, the top portion is my sprue, which does not have that part in it. So there was actually a piece missing from the sprue. And I'm using the word sprue, Martin, because you'll see in the magazine that that's exactly what D'Agostini calls it. But anyway, that missing piece is actually going to be okay, though, and I'll explain why here in a little bit. So moving on to issue number 63. I'm going to be opening up our packaging, and make sure that all your pieces are there, including, even if it's coming off of a sprue, you want to make sure all your pieces are there. In the last issue, I did have one missing, so just carefully look at those and verify it. So again, we are continuing on with the cockpit details. So what I'm going to do, instead of you watching me fumble around with these things, these tiny pieces, I'm just going to show you the magazine pages that explain what it is you have to do to assemble these pieces. And again, very, very tedious, very tiny little pieces that need to be placed into position. But I gotta say, they really do look very, very good. Tweezers are definitely a must. And of course, patience. And be very, very careful when you're working with these pieces that you do not lose any of them. Some of them are so small and so easy to lose that it would break your heart if that happened. So just be very careful when you put these things together. But here we are with the finished cockpit, and I think it looks really good. I really do. We'll be lighting this thing up here pretty soon, and that's what we're doing here in issue number 64. So we've got a few more pieces to add to it, a few more detail pieces that come in our handy dandy plastic tray. A little bit more detail to add to it. Now, these pieces look really good, but the one thing I don't like about them is that they're all the same, exact same color. And the problem with that is because they're so small, they tend to blend into the rest of the form. So it's nice to see a little bit of variance in color so they stand out a little bit more. But here we are with the pieces, or the pages to the magazine that explain the next steps to this process. And as you can see from the magazines, this is a very detailed cockpit. I'm very impressed with it. But we're going to be making some modifications to it, adding some fiber optic cabling and some new lighting sequences other than what they're providing us here, which is essentially just 3 LEDs. One LED goes behind the main console, and you've got 2 LEDs that sit in each of the 2 side consoles. Now, the one that's in the front console, I'm not sure what it's supposed to be illuminating. There are no holes in the console to allow that light to shine through, except for the 2 missing pieces that I was unable to get in there. So what I'm going to do is just add a somewhat transparent or translucent piece to that, so where the light can shine through it. But if I had placed those pieces in there, I have no idea what that LED would have backlit at all. It was weird to me what they're actually for. But as you can see, I'm putting in the 2 LEDs to the side consoles, and then the third one will fit through the cockpit area framing there. And I'll get this thing put into place, and you'll see here momentarily what this looks like illuminated. But again, all of this that I'm doing right now is temporary because I do intend to modify the cockpit. So there's a little bit more animation to it, a little bit more interesting than what they're giving us here. And as you can see, I got the lights are shining through. And I mentioned earlier about light blocking these console pieces, and it's probably a good idea. Either that or try to defuse the LED a little bit, maybe apply a paint, like a white paint or something to it, so they're not as brilliant and shine through the plastic and look unrealistic. Here are some pictures of where we are with our build so far. As you can see, we are getting closer and closer to completion. Okay, so here's where we kick it up a notch, folks. So right now we are getting started with the painting process. And here are the 3 paints that I'm using today. The nice gloss black, a nice gray primer, and a stainless steel metal paint that I found at my local hobby shop as my base color. The Tamiya AS16 color that you see here is what you would want to go with as a foundational paint for the Red 5. But since I'm doing the green Corsair, I'll be going a different direction with the base color. After priming the model, the first color I want to go with here is the gloss black. That will be the base color prior to me applying the bare metal color. In this case, we'll be using the Extreme Metal AK stainless steel. And as you can see, that black undercoat allows those panel lines to really stand out and give that metallic finish a little bit more of a brilliance that you wouldn't normally see unless you had that black undercoat. So this is the color that the majority of my ship will have. Now this particular part of the ship is painted black, and the reason why I'm going with the metallic color is that I'm going to have some paint chipping effects that I want to reveal the silver or the stainless steel undercoat. So I'll explain that in the next video, but for now I just kind of wanted to give you an idea where I am going, what paint colors I'm using, and give you guys a little something to ponder while I'm waiting for the next issues to arrive. But for now, thanks everyone for joining me. Please enjoy a few minutes of looking at my some of my subscribers' work that was submitted to me, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.